Hi, everyone. This is Jackie Martin with Be More Learning with another Pop-Up Positivity. I am so excited to have a dear friend, Agenna Mathely, here. Agenna and I have been friends for years now, and I have always been drawn to Agenna because she just has this way of looking at things, this way of sharing with other people, this way of giving back, and she's turned that not just from her family, but now out as a profession. And so, Agenna, tell us a little bit about what you've been doing and what you're doing right now.
Wow, thanks, Jackie. Thank you so much for having me. And like you said, we've been friends for so many years now. It's just such a comfortable, great relationship. And I've always been drawn to you because of your positivity. So I've always just appreciated that. And so about me, wife of 29 years. My husband is an entrepreneur. He left corporate America and started his own business 10 years ago. He's a fishing guide on Lake Lanier. So that has been a really cool experience building that business alongside of him. We have 3 daughters. The youngest is 17. Sorry, honey. 19. My middle daughter just turned 19 last week. And then I have a 22-year-old. And very interestingly, the older and the middle daughter actually was in Hawaii at the University of Hawaii. Her sister had went with her, but because of all this, they are all back home now. So I have all daughters under one roof, which is kind of unique for right now. It's super fun. We're having a blast with that. I'm completely used to spending time with my children because they did go to public elementary school, but once we hit middle school, I decided to homeschool my children. So when they complain about this quarantine, sometimes I say, you've been training for this all your life. You were homeschooled. So it's super exciting that we actually have this time again in our life. So that's me personally. Professionally, like you said, I launched my own career as a life coach because of you. You're the first one who actually suggested that to me and asked me if that was something I would be interested in doing. And so I started that career a few years ago, and I have just loved where it is taking me. I work with clients actually from all ages. I work a lot with teens. I work with parents. I work with entrepreneurs and business owners. My goal is really to help people get from where they are to where they want to go, in whatever area that life is, whatever path they're trying to follow right then. So it's super exciting. What I teach, it's because I need it and I learn from it and I grow too. And it's such an exciting opportunity. And I just feel so blessed because I get to see people have breakthrough moments and just break out of their shell and get out of that comfort zone. And it's so rewarding. So it's so much fun. So I really love that. And it's because of you. So thank you, Jackie.
Hey, you're too kind, but I got to tell you, one of the things I've always loved is that you are a lifelong learner. You are almost an encyclopedia of memory of all the cool things that podcasts you've always been great with, listening to interviews like this, reading books and all of that. And one of the things I've appreciated is you brought that to Be More in our workshops and been able to share that with students and with parents. So we're happy to have you on today, and that's really kind of what brought the subject around to. Obviously, we're going through some very strange times, but I think all times we need to be watching what we let go on here. So can you tell me just a little bit more about your thoughts about our thoughts and the power that they have?
Yes, absolutely. I would love to. When I first started, actually one of the first conversations you and I had, I think, was about self-talk. So even way back then, I was so interested in the conversations that we have 24/7 in our head and how that affects us. And so that has kind of been a platform from which I've built. I'm also a volleyball coach. So I work with teams on a regular basis. And I can see how just in every little event, say there a girl's going up to serve, if she has the thought process, I'm going to miss my serve, I never get to serve, I'm so nervous, she misses her serve. But if she goes up there with confidence and knows before she goes in, that ball's going over the net, That's all there is to it. She doesn't miss her serve. Now, no one's perfect, obviously, but the thought process matters. And so in coaching, volleyball and life coaching, we talk a whole lot about our thought processes and thinking and guarding those thoughts. Right now, I see so much misinformation and uncertainty out there on the news. You scroll through Facebook or Instagram, and everyone has an opinion. Everyone has an idea. There's conspiracy theories. There's one CDC officer saying this, a doctor saying that. There's so much uncertainty. And this, I'm 52 years old. I've never seen anything like this. I asked my mom, who's obviously in her 70s, or actually my husband asked her, he said, was there anything like this in your childhood? And she was, no, there hasn't been anything. This is unprecedented. So we're all learning this together. But when we find ourselves listening to everyone's opinion, I think that there is so much more uncertainty. And science has backed up and proved over and over again that uncertainty causes anxiety. Well, we already deal with anxiety and depression so much as a country. 7% of all teens actually struggle with depression on a regular basis. And uncertainty is just feeding that and these anxieties. And our thoughts are actual things. When we have a thought, chemicals are released in our brain, and our bodies are basically chemicals and electricity. That's basically what our bodies are made of. And those thoughts are produced in the brain. They actually have emotions with them that release chemicals. Those chemicals go down through our pituitary gland and into our adrenal glands. And I'm getting boring.
No.
It affects us physically. So fear releases stress hormones. And you probably heard the word cortisol, which it does a lot more than just stress. It's a hormone that we need in our body. But when it goes unchecked in our body, it actually damages our heart. It raises our depression level. And the other thing it does is it coats our brain, the little dendrites in our brain create memories, and it actually shortens our memory.
Wow.
It leads to Alzheimer's, which is, a big concern for a lot of people, but it actually creates an environment in our brain that we have a hard time remembering. So if you are studying for your algebra exam tomorrow and you stop and scroll through Facebook and you see uncertain headline after headline that create fear and stress in you, you literally are causing yourself not to remember the algebra you studied, and you're harming yourself. So that's a very short term, but over the long term, fear, it's right to our heart. So it actually narrows our arteries and it increases our heart palpitation. That's why you might hear of a grown man who's in great shape die of a heart attack. It's usually stress related. Stress, when it's and negative feelings, toxic thoughts, the I can't do it, I'm horrible at this, the thoughts or the things we hear from maybe a teacher once said, you will never be a singer. I don't know why you're in choir. If that sounded real, that happened to me. That changes the way we think about ourselves. When we're saying these things to ourselves all the time, or we hear someone else saying negative things to ourselves, or we experience people saying negative things online, what actually happens in our brain when these thoughts, I lost my train of thought.
Well, that just we're getting all kinds of messages, and does it trigger something for us?
Yes, and I completely lost where I was going with this. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. Well, let me ask you this while you're coming at it. No, this is really good, because what I'm hearing you say is that obviously we're in really stressful times anyway.
Yeah.
And when those thoughts trigger the emotional and the physical reactions over and over and over and over again, we're going to start to show it in physical and emotional ways, right?
Yeah. And actually, I'm going to tell you really what just happened. And it's a perfect example. So I was going to try to, kind of blow on by it. I'm sitting outside. I actually have something I need to go do in a few minutes. So I'm sitting outside. I'm sitting in our library's wonderful secret garden. There's nobody around where I'm way social distancing, but I'm sitting here and bees are flying around. And actually, just as I was telling that last story, I was talking, 3 bees came right over my iPad here. And it actually triggered a little bit of fear.
Stress. Oh my gosh.
And so then I got stressed, and that's why I literally lost my train of thought. One of the things I say is when you are feeling intense stress or fear, like if you're speaking in front of a group of people, it's what happens in our brain is actually it's a DIY frontal lobotomy. That is actually what happens. That is what just happened to me. I completely, and it was back. Sorry. I'm not afraid of bees. I'm not allergic. That is actually what just happened. I was train of thought. I was telling you something I'm very familiar with. I'm very passionate about, obviously. And three little bees flying here, literally, and I gave myself a DIY frontal lobotomy and completely lost my train of thought. So that's what fear does to us. That's what stress does to us. We've got to be so careful about what we let in our not what we let in our brains. Thoughts are going to come. They just come. That's okay. It's whether or not we're going to dwell on them. So being aware of these thoughts. Can you see the bee?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I did see him. Oh, my gosh.
Just flew. That one was just the carpenter bee. Can't hurt me. I know that.
No.
But the other one.
Let me ask you this. What can we do about it? Because are there a couple of tips or ideas when you just notice, because you know what's going on, you recognized what just happened. So for those who don't recognize it or are trying to be aware of it more, what do we do? What can we do if it does happen or when it happens?
Yeah. So did you notice my first instinct though was to move on past it? I tried to ignore it and just like, oh, I just lost my train of thought. And I didn't even acknowledge it. And so that's how hard it can be to even be aware of the thoughts that are in our brain. Number one is just awareness, to really think about your thoughts, which sounds very, very odd, but just being aware of this thought. And then I love questions. One of the questions I love to ask is it true? Can you prove this is true? So I'm going to go back to the volleyball serve. When someone says, oh, I never get my serve over. Is that true? No, of course it's not true. You got your last serve over. You have gotten serves over in the past. Is it true? So that's one thing, just ask yourself. And if you say yes immediately, because sometimes we're just like, oh, yeah, it's true. Can you prove it's true? I mean, really dig down and can you prove it's true? And so often when we really step back and examine the thought, we can't prove it's true. It's just a thought we're having. And then when we decide, okay, it's not true, then we have to decide, do I want to dwell on it? Do I want to be here in this space that this is making me feel anxious or stressed? Or do I want to dismiss this thought, maybe turn it around, or maybe just say, you know what? Hey, thought, thanks for playing, but I'm good. You can go on about your business, right? So awareness. Another great thing to do, and I'm sure you've heard this from Be More, you've probably heard this a lot of places, is breathe. Our breath is it's healing. It's healing. And the bottom 1/3 of your lungs is responsible for 2/3 of the oxygen that gets to your brain. So when I talk about breathing, I don't mean just breathe. I mean, pretend there's a balloon behind your belly button and a tube running down, down to that balloon, and fill that balloon and exhale and watch that balloon deflate. I'm talking about deep breaths down here. They don't have to be super deep, but they do have to be low in your abdomen area. Fill your lungs, the 4 quadrants of your lungs, and being just conscious and being aware of that breath going in and that breath coming out. Breath gets oxygen to our brain and carries our blood supply, and that actually releases endorphins that are actually pain relieving or chemicals as well. So it's pain relief and it's calming. And rhythmic breathing is the only way that we can actually control our heartbeat. So if we can just breathe rhythmically for 1 minute and, the same rhythm, the same pattern, and it doesn't matter what it is, do what's comfortable for you. But if we can do that for 1 or 2 minutes, it actually helps lower our heart rate and starts regulating our body. So that's a great thing. Sitting outside, vitamin D is amazing. And I know the skincare people will say you don't want a ton of vitamin D, and I don't want you to get sunburned, but sitting for 10 minutes, even in dappled sun under a shade tree, or going for a walk in nature. If you can get out someplace where it's green therapy, some kind of green around you, that is so helpful. Lowering your sugar intake. is a big, big thing to do. It's so helpful. Sugar actually lowers our immune system. We need strong immune systems right now, but it also inhibits good thinking skills. Stretching and exercise. Everyone, no one can go to the gym right now, but everyone can do a little, just stretching in your home, or just creating energy through movement. It doesn't matter. We do 30 minutes dance, just dance sessions in my house. I just sometimes crank up Alexa and say, all right, dance party, and everyone just dances crazy for 30 seconds. And that is amazing for your mental health.
I've heard too with the physical part is that our emotions often can get stuffed into our muscles. It's like we store things. That's why you get cramps in a certain spot in your back or things like that happen. And so I love that idea of just getting moving. Stretching would be perfect, but moving.
And the dance actually does help release those chemicals out of our that stored energy that gets it out. So that is actually just moving. It so helps. But I'm going to go back to your point. It starts with noticing. It starts with noticing those thoughts. And, sorry, teenagers, and maybe probably some parents, we've got to watch how much time we spend on social media and watching the headlines in the news. There's really no need to watch the news for more than 15 to 30 minutes a day. And scrolling endlessly, it just raises your anxiety level and your depression level. So I know there's a lot of good out there. I know there's a lot of funny out there. But if we can limit that, it actually will benefit your long-term health.
And that's good at any time. I mean, I realize anytime we find, especially for students, that too much screen time, but it's definitely true about parents as well, can alter the way, sometimes just looking at what other people are doing that you feel comparing yourself to can cause problems too. So I'm hearing you say some great ideas about how, while the thoughts come and while the anxiety for some is very real, there are ways we can control this. Yes?
Yes, we can help ourselves.
Yes. Well, absolutely. So let me ask you this. I've been asking this of everybody. As we're looking forward to down the road, or even just right now, when you hear the phrase, what if it's better? I mean, like, what if we either come out of this situation and it's better, or just about life in general? That phrase, a friend of mine shared it with me, and I've just been carrying it with me and asking everyone, what's your take when you hear, what if it's better? What thoughts come to mind for you?
Wow, that's a great statement. So I may have mentioned earlier, I really like questions. I spend a lot of time during the day asking questions. And one of the questions I love to ask is, and this is good because we know there's a silver lining in every cloud. We've heard that statement. And so years ago, I decided, why wait to get on the other end of that, to wait for the silver lining, to see what the hindsight, what good comes out of it, and start asking the question in the beginning of the unpleasant situation. So one time I ran out of gas. Totally my fault. But I started to be a little bit frustrated when I was calling my husband, who was definitely frustrated. But I said, and this is good because, well, my daughter was actually going through something, and it gave us some time to sit on the side of the road with no interruptions, that she could share something with me. And so we may not have that moment. So that was just one little thing. So I really have been using that question. I try to use it a lot. And I've been asking myself that about this pandemic. And this is good because one of the biggest things I see is right before our last session on March 26th, that we should have had it be more, I was preparing to talk to the parents about margin. And I was digging in a little bit more and finding out the damage that we are doing to ourselves, our family, and our children by overscheduling and by having no margin, no time to allow for emergencies or fun time. And we just cram our schedule so full. And right before we canceled, I realized that thankfully isn't a topic we need to discuss right now. We built in time for each other. We have built in margin. And so this is good because we are learning what it feels like to be a family again, what family values.
Yes.
It shows, teens lose their family's culture because we're so inundated with schoolwork and activities and sports and all this, that we lose our culture. And so families are actually getting to build that culture back into their family, their traditions, their histories. So that's one of the big things that I'm loving that this is good because, and it will be better because we've learned what it feels like again to be families and to take care of each other. So that's probably the biggest thing for me.
I think you gave me chills here. I love that. And I think you're right. And when I hear the phrase, whenever we go back to normal, I don't think that applies anymore. I think there'll be a whole new normal.
There's a new normal.
And I hope that, and I believe that will be better. And so, Agenna, thank you so much for sharing with us. Even though you're outside and we're kind of enjoying seeing you I can see the clouds going by. It's a beautiful day. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. Could you share with us, we're going to write it below, but could you share with us how people can reach you, your website?
Oh, sure. So I'm at coachagenna.com, and it's just Coach, and Agenna is my name. It's AGENNA.com, and I'm on Facebook as well. So I would love to reach out. And I actually am doing 15-minute free phone calls for coaching for anyone who just needs maybe just a time to vent or a time to say what's going on, and they just need someone on their side. They just need someone who is just listening to them, no other agenda, or somebody who's like, okay, I really want to make some big strides in this area, but I'm not ready to hire a coach. I just need to, where do I start? And so I'm offering that 15-minute free phone call. We can do it Skype or Zoom, or we can just talk on the phone, and you can sign up on my register or on my website for that as well, or just send me an email. And I love it. I would love to just chat with anyone about whatever we need to talk about right now.
I love it. I think that's great. And thank you so much for sharing about the power of the mind and the control we can have about our thoughts with those great ideas. Thank you so much, Agenna. Thank you, guys.
Jackie.
I appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being, again, part of Pop-Up Positivity. Truly, this is about sharing positivity and optimism everywhere we can. So I thank you so much for being here. We'll see you next time.